Paramhansa Yogananda's original teachings. And what I've been doing in this period of time is sharing a little bit from Swami Kriyananda's autobiography, The New Path, especially or only from those sections in the years where he had been living with his master, his guru, Paramhansa Yogananda. And today, by the way, happy Monday, snowy Monday for all of us. I know my friends at Ananda Village are in the snow all the way up through Portland into Seattle. We have been handed a bucket of ice that started yesterday and was a lovely sort of second Christmas day yesterday. This week, my husband, Riemann, who shares these broadcasts with me, is in seclusion. So I'm going to be offering a reading or an excerpt and some thoughts every day. Seclusion is a time to spend in meditation, in reading inspirational matters, chanting, just trying to keep the heart and mind uplifted one-pointedly. And so let me read to you the excerpt. This one is a little longer than most, and I'm going to paraphrase just the first part. Swami Kriyananda had been invited by Yogananda out to his desert retreat. And at one point, Yogananda asked Kriyananda and his brother disciple Norman to dig a swimming pool. Kriyananda explains that Yogananda never actually used the swimming pool. He felt quite sure that it had been a project that was meant to be instructive to them, but nevertheless, they dug the pool, and by the time they were finished digging, they sort of stood back and they saw these sort of hideous mounds of dirt all around that area where they'd been digging. And so Yogananda came outdoors at that point and he said, "Those mounds don't look very attractive," he remarked. "I wonder if they couldn't be leveled out. Would one of you mind fetching a 2x4? Armed with the board, we stood before him apprehensively and waited further instructions. "Each of you hold the 2x4 at one end," Master said. "Then just come over to this mound here. Pull the sand back toward you by pressing down hard on the board and moving it slowly back and forth between you." Probably even this meager description suffices to convey some idea of how difficult the job was. By the time we'd leveled one mound, Norman and I panting heavily. Well, we reflected, at least we demonstrated that the job could be done. Master, now that his curiosity was satisfied, would no doubt tell us to go and have our lunch. "Very good," the master commented approvingly. "I thought that method would work. Now then, why don't you try it just once more on that mound over there?" Adjusting our expectations accordingly, we started in a second time. "Very good," the master commented once again, evidently not wishing to place obstacles in the way of our momentum we'd been building up. He said, "Let's do one more, this one over here. And after that, one more. And then just one more. I don't know how many mounds we leveled, but Norman, strong as he was beginning to moan softly under his breath. Just one more, the master said. Suddenly, getting the joke at last, I stood up and laughed. Master smiled back at me. I was playing with you. Now go and have your lunch. Often in his training of us, he would push our equanimity to the limit to see which way we would break. If we rebelled, or if under the strain we grew upset, it meant that we had failed the test. But if we responded with an extra spurt of energy and affirmed a bright, positive attitude, we found his tests immeasurably strengthening. So I had a number of thoughts in reading this. Of course, it's good to always test ourselves to our own outer limits, you might say. I think there used to be a TV program about that when I was a teenager, that the truth is out there. Anyway, we test ourselves to our own outer limits so that we can take ourselves just a little bit further. We used to say the same thing about our meditations. If we normally meditate an hour at a time, then once a week, try to push yourself a little further and meditate an hour and a half or 2 hours. Just a little bit past what we've done before to make inroads, to deepen and widen the definitions, the constraints we set on ourselves, the limits we set on ourselves, which, if God is infinity and God is in every atom of creation and we have God within us in every atom of our being, then therefore there is no limit to infinity is our natural home. There is no limit to what we can not only do, but what we can be. And so stretching ourselves in those ways. And you know, I've found through my years that sometimes individuals trying to mimic what Yogananda, who was an avatar, a true master of himself is what that really means. What he was able to do, like for instance, this test that he put these young men through, they try to do that with other people, individuals who are not yet realized. And then, unfortunately, the way it expresses itself and comes across is almost a bullying, almost a unkindness to one another, because it's not coming from that place of divinity within us, which is always kind, always thoughtful, and in his case, always seeing down the road of our own potential and what we're able to tolerate and take at that point in time, and be able to process and internalize and understand. and experience in the right way so that we can grow beyond our own limits. So I don't recommend imposing these kinds of tests on others around us. I do recommend that we impose these kinds of tests on ourselves and help ourselves to stretch our limits just a little further, until we find that there is no end in sight, because we are at one with infinity. Joy to you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Blessings. Bye-bye now.